Hello students, welcome to the new session of linguistics language courses. Today I am going to talk about sound changes and I will focus mainly on Green's law. So we all know that change is a general phenomenon associated with our life. Every aspect of life changes from time to time. And since language is also very closely related with our life, it also changes. So change is a feature of every aspect of life, and so is the case with language. Actually, why we study this aspect means this feature of language means change in language, because it helps us understand some very important things about language. Actually, we have already talked about certain characteristics of language, that when we evolved gradually from our animal ancestry, we came on this earth as human, as Homo sapiens, we had a kind of language organ that later on came to be known as Broca's area and Wernicke's area. So these two organs contribute to our ability to learn languages. So initially it may also be presumed that there must have been very few languages, or the case may be that even there were only one language. And out of those few languages, or rather one language, so many languages evolved in the course of time. And in that evolution of language, the sound change plays an important role. So in the course of time, people get to pronounce different words in different ways, and gradually that difference in pronunciation uh, just also uh, becomes accompanied with the changes in meaning, and that leads to the evolution of an altogether different language. So that is the basic premise of a study of changes in sound, means sound shift, because it helps us understand the evolution of different languages in the course of time. In short, you can say. So today's our focus area will be Green's law. Actually, this all began in 1786 with Sir William Jones proposing that there is a kind of correspondence between Sanskrit and certain European languages. Certain European languages, to be precise, Greek, Latin, and Germanic. From Germanic, we will understand English, because English language is a sub-branch of the branch Germanic of Indo-European family of languages. We have already talked about that in our earlier sessions. So you must refer to that video to understand different family of languages, different groups of languages evolving from Indo-European family of languages. So on this proposal, so many linguists of the period were inspired. It created a kind of stir among linguists, and they were inspired to carry on their research. And finally, a German linguist, Rasmus Rask, made some headway in this direction. But finally, we can say that Green, in his Deus Grammatic, proposed or postulated a regular theory about sound shift. Green primarily focused on consonant. He did not care much about change in vowel sounds. He primarily focused on consonants. So in Deutsch Grammatik, he postulated his theories. So what he did was based on the idea in place since the proposal of Sir William Jones that Sanskrit shares certain correspondences with certain European languages, and it indicates towards the fact that these languages may have evolved from a common ancestor, sorry, and that common ancestor may be named as Proto-Indo-European language. Here I must repeat that we need to carry on further researches to ascertain whether there were any Proto-Indo-European language, and if there was, what was the exact location of that language, means what was the exact location of that language community, because we have so many things to conclude that Sanskrit or Prakrit might have been that language which gave birth to so many different languages spoken today across the world. So there are some researches, but all those researches were carried out by European scholars, and of course, you know, the European scholars are driven by a kind of colonial bias. So their research cannot be neutral if we consider everything from the viewpoint of Sanskrit or Prakrit, because they try their best to place the location of the language community speaking the earliest language somewhere outside India. There are different hypotheses. Some of them sound correct as well, but there are scope to carry on further researches on the issue. So that is not the issue here. We will focus on this, that all these languages share a common ancestor, and that ancestor is a kind of proto-language. So he started a close examination of the sound pattern of all these languages that William Jones proposed in 1786. So he included Sanskrit, Latin, Greek, ancient Greek, and Germanic, means focused on English. So these languages and their sound patterns were researched. The outcome of the result can be understood in three key points, and these key points were that in the course of time the language differentiated from their previous mother language, and in that course there were certain sound changes. The second key point was that these sound changes are not random, they are regular, they are consistent, and they are linguistically explicable. And final key point was the most of the sound changes occurred in English, means Germanic branch of language. So we can take, for example, here we will focus on pa and ta sound, because we already know Green did not focus on vowel sounds. So then we have pater, then we have pater, and then finally we have father. So you can notice that in these three languages there is no change in p and t sound. But in Germanic branch, means in English, we have p changed into f and t changed into the. So this is the pattern. Then we have another word, pod, and in English it is called foot. So again we have pa as fa and da changed into ta. So here we can notice that whichever word of Sanskrit begins with pa sound, that pa sound changes into fa in Germanic branch of language. Similarly, ta changes into the and da changes into ta. So these are the general pattern. This was explained by Grimm. So this example justifies his claim that in the course of time there were certain sound changes, and those sound changes occurred mostly in Germanic language. And those sound changes are linguistically explicable because they present a regular and consistent pattern. Now, let's come to see what is the final conclusion of Grimm's law. This theory of Grimm is better known as Grimm's law. So, what is the final conclusion and how does Grimm explain these sound changes? He postulated that ancestral language, means proto-language, where all these languages evolved from, had limited consonant sounds, and those sounds were pa, ta, ka, ba, da, ga, and bha, dha, and gha. Pa, ta, ka, ba, da, ga, bha, dha, gha. So you can just understand. I've already told you about consonant sounds, how they are pronounced and what they are called. So these are plosives. So these also are plosives, and these also are plosives. So plosive sound require a complete structure of air passes, and then it is released. Pa, ta, ka. So how these sounds are different from each other? So these are voiceless plosive. These are voiced plosives. So the manner of articulation is different. Sorry. And here these also are voiced, but they are aspirated plosives. In short, you can understand that a sound is pronounced with ha sound assimilated there, then it becomes aspirated. You must recognize a native speaker of English speaking pa as pa. They don't say pin, they say pin. So there is a kind of aspiration, that is called aspiration. So ba is aspirated and it becomes bha, then da when aspirated becomes dha, and ga when aspirated becomes gha. So this is the main thing. Now let's come to the point how this sound changed. So pa became ha, ta became the, and ka became ha. So this is the main thing you have to remember. If these three sounds changed into these three respectively, there was a kind of vacuum created. So now you may see that ba changed into pa, ta changed into da changed into ta, and ka came to be used in place of ga. So first we have pa changed into fa, ta changed into da, and ka changed into ha. And then we have ba changed into pa, da changed into ta, and ga changed into ka. Now here we have a kind of vacuum. So ba came here, means bha changed into ba, dha changed into da, and gha changed into ga. So this is the regularity, this is the consistency of sound change what Grimm was talking about. So we can notice a consistent and regular pattern of change in sound, and this is that change. I hope I am making sense to you. You have understood this thing. You must take a screenshot to remember this. This question may be asked in your exam at graduation level and even sometimes at post-graduation level. So you are supposed to know this. Grimm's law and Warner's law are very important aspect when we talk about sound changes in language. So we have these changes. Here, the most significant thing is this. Now, in Germanic language, this is the general consonant sound pattern of proto-language, and these changed sounds are of Germanic language. So we can notice that proto-languages have aspirated voiced plosives, and that aspirated voiced plosives changed into unaspirated voiced plosive in Germanic branch. Means in English we don't have aspirated voiced plosives, but we notice people speaking voiced sounds. So what is the difference in aspiration in English and aspiration in proto-language or other European, Indo-European languages? In Sanskrit and even in Hindi, we still notice aspirated sound. We have bha, dha, and gha in Sanskrit and in Hindi. Even in Latin and Greek, we have that sound. But in English, we don't have such sounds. If that sound, that word is English, of English origin, we must say that. So what is the difference? I am talking about the difference of aspiration in Indo-European languages, all the Indo-European languages, and aspiration in English. In Indo-European languages, aspirated sound had phonemic and phonetic significance. In English or in Germanic branch, aspiration has only phonetic significance, means it loses its phonemic significance. What is phonemic? What is the significance of phonemic? Phoneme. So phoneme, if we change phoneme and we just altogether change the meaning of that word spoken, this is called phoneme. But phonetic is only related to your sound pattern, your pronunciation. We say pin or we say thin. that does not make a difference in English, and everyone understands what the speaker is talking about. But if in Hindi or in Sanskrit, where aspiration has phonemic significance, if we speak bha instead of ba, the meaning of the word may change, or sometimes the word may even be rendered meaningless. So this is phonemic. Phonemic has its impact on its influence on meaning as well, while phonetic has relation to only pronunciation. So in Indo-European languages, aspirated consonants had their phonemic significance that was lost in Germanic branch. So here we can say that sound changes as postulated by Green may bring about changes in phonology as well, because we with sound changes we also forced to change the arrangement of words to use in a particular language. What exactly is phonology and how it is unique to a language will be discussed in our next lecture, and for today this is enough. And there are certain limitations of Green's law that were not explained by Green, that were explained further by Werner, and he just explained most of the things related to vowel sounds that were left unexplained by Green. So we will discuss that aspect as well in our coming lectures. So stay tuned and enjoy watching, enjoy study.